Hi, welcome to Loft 801. My name is Diego, and today I'm talking about my favorite movie of this year, Train Dreams. Step aside The Ugly Stepsister, I have zero doubts Train Dreams will be nominated for an Oscar. In fact, I could see it being nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Cinematography. I'm not kidding, this movie is excellent. I've seen this movie 3 times within a 5-day span. Once on my own, once with my parents, and once with my girlfriend who sobbed for 90 minutes of this movie. She loved this movie, but 15 minutes in, she started crying, and it didn't stop until an hour after the movie was over. All that is to say, this is an emotionally moving film. FYI, this review will not contain spoilers because I desperately hope you watch this movie. Train Dreams is based on Denis Johnson's 2011 novella and follows the life of Robert Grainier, played by Joel Edgerton, over roughly 8 decades in and around Bonners Ferry, Idaho during the 20th century. He's an orphan, a logger, a railroad worker, a husband, and a father. I love how this movie spotlights what could be a small life and treats it with enormous respect. The plot is quietly epic and tells a man's entire story without ever turning him into a special chosen one or cliché mythic hero. This movie is completely grounded. It finds meaning in mundane moments like picnics, logging campfires, conversations about dogs, and a man tying another man's boot. Again, this movie is grounded, and just like real life, it shows you all of the ups and all of the downs. If you're a crier, this movie is gonna getcha. I'm not a crier, but it still got me with one of the rawest grief arcs I've seen in a long time. This is a slow, cumulative gut punch of a movie. The reason this movie works so well is because it is loving, earnest, heartfelt, and deeply somber. It balances sacred quietness with flashes of violence and tragedy, and I think that tension is what makes it linger in my mind. It makes me think about my life and the ups and downs that I've had. It makes me think about my parents and my grandparents and the lives they lived. This movie explores some deeply powerful themes. One of the questions this movie asks is, do bad things follow us through life? This film doesn't give us easy answers, but it shows that yes, some things stay with us forever. Another impactful theme is time and change. Watching this movie and seeing how this man's life unfolded during an era of unprecedented change in early 20th century America is jaw-dropping. You can feel the passage from raw wilderness to industrialized America, from hand tools and hatchets to chainsaws, from rickety wooden bridges to concrete and steel, from horses and wagons to airplanes, and finally, men on the moon. From Robert's eyes, each new technology almost feels supernatural and out of place. And I can't blame him. I think about how my parents grew up without computers and now everybody has a computer in their hand. I think about how social media went from 60-character posts and single images into never-ending content and algorithms. I think about AI and how much of our lives are now automated. The time and change in this movie are perfectly relatable and they make you question the meaning of life. This movie isn't preachy, but there's a good sense of grief over what is lost. From an environmental and spiritual perspective, logging crews clear-cut ancient forests. Trees that were over 500 years old were cut down in a flash. The younger loggers thought the trees would last forever, but the older men know better. They could see beyond the trees. Ways of life and culture would be lost forever to time. Adding on to that reflective grief, there are very raw human moments in this film. The dialogue will gut you and it'll make you think about how people can move on after extreme loss. How do parents keep pushing forward after losing their children? How do spouses learn to live when their SOs die? Will you always remember your friends after they pass? This movie is so moving because it shows us that life isn't fair. Good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Sometimes you just have to shoulder your losses and it may take a lifetime to understand them and move past them. In short, the things that worked for me with the story and the theme are the reflective and meditative tone, the idea that time doesn't stop for anyone, and the idea that grief never fully goes away, you just learn to live with it. Joel Edgerton gives some career best work here. Robert is a man of very few words with so much happening behind his eyes. Early on, he's boyish and shy, especially around Gladys. Later, the way his face slackens after tragedy or how his shoulders stoop as he ages, all of that communicates decades of regret and exhaustion without big speeches. I'm not kidding, I genuinely think he'll earn an Oscar nomination for this role. Ethan Hawke might win it for his performance in Blue Moon, but still, Joel deserves his flowers. Felicityjones as Gladys is luminous. She gives this movie its warmth and sense of home. I adored seeing her talk about turning their farm into an acre and getting a horse or a mule for a sawmill. She's always brainstorming ways to keep her family together, and Jones brings a clear light to her character. She's clever, loving, and capable, Robert's equal in many ways. Supporting cast members like William H. Macy as Arn Peoples or Carrie Condon's Claire Thompson Johnson are fantastic casting choices. One is a talkative, tall-tale, explosive expert who reminds us that death is random. The other is an Irish forestry worker who reminds Robert there is nothing crazy after experiencing death, and it's okay to exist with grief. Other characters like Apostle Frank, the talkative Bible preacher logger, or Ignatius Jack, the kind Native American store clerk, feel vivid and like real people. They're not archetypes. Everyone feels composed in the landscape of the film. All these characters align with another theme I forgot to mention. Every little thing matters. The tiniest insects in a forest play just as big a role as the river cutting through it. Dead trees are just as important as the living trees. The idea that everything matters is powerful, and it's one that I completely buy into. Again, the performances are incredible and the cast perfectly fits in this world. The chemistry between cast members completely sells the emotional core of the movie, and I appreciated each role, big or small. Visually, this movie is insane. It's shot in a 4:3 cinematography by Adolfo Veloso, and the compositions are just stunning. The boxy frame makes every shot feel like an old photograph or a memory, which fits perfectly with a story that covers 80 years of one man's life. There are so many images burned into my brain. The pink picnic blanket by the river with Gladys and Katie, logging crews silhouetted against foggy ridgelines, campfire scenes where light flickers across faces while the forest fades into darkness, the charred, blackened landscape after a fire contrasted with the return of green growth, aerial shots from a plane where the valley that once looked endless now feels small and contained. I absolutely love the cinematography. It respected the landscape by never rushing. It sat and watched as trees fell, as rivers flowed, and as smoke rolled in. Even simple shots of dogs trotting around have a painterly quality. Nature isn't just a backdrop, but a character. Everything has personality. Adding to the nature, the production and sense of place are perfect. I love the simple and beautiful cabin. I love the little town general stores and old rail yards. Everything looked and felt lived in. As time moved forward, the production gently added new layers. Bridges of concrete and steel, more steam machines, trucks, modern clothing, eventually even televisions and planes. Despite these new additions, the film never lost its grounded, muddy, sawdust-filled texture. Even the aging makeup and costume work on Robert is excellent. I loved how his hair started as a dark brown and slowly transitioned into a speckled look and eventually fully gray. His wardrobe went from a younger, rough and ready logger to an older man's simpler, almost uniform wardrobe. It's all subtle, but very, very effective. Just as good as the cinematography, the music is beautiful and fits this movie like a glove. Most of the music is low-key, gentle, melancholic, and almost ambient. It often lets wind, water, and forest sounds do a lot of the emotional heavy lifting. When the score does swell like in a fire or during a memory, it feels earned. It's never manipulative. Even the song during the end credits is fantastic. It's a perfect emotional summary of the story and the motions of life. Again, the sound design is just as important as the music. Creaking trees, distant train whistles, explosives, fire crackles, the thuds of falling logs, dogs barking, and the soft murmur of river water texture this world. It's a completely immersive soundscape that makes you feel like you're camping in this movie. At around 100 minutes, this movie isn't very long, but it feels like you live a full life because of how much space director Cliff Bentley gives to small in-between moments. Men eating by a fire, dogs wandering through the frame, and Robert sitting in ruins. Life isn't always about big goals. Sometimes it's about surviving and waiting and learning to live. I think this movie perfectly captures that in a confident and non-flashy way, making this the perfect runtime. Train Dreams is easily my favorite movie of the year. It's quiet, heartfelt, devastating, gorgeous, and profoundly human. It made me sit with the uncomfortable truth that life moves whether we're ready or not. Time keeps passing, people keep changing, and one day, all any of us will ever have are the memories we carry and the grace we've shown along the way. This movie reminded me to slow down, appreciate the small moments, and honor the people who built the world I get to live in. It reminded me that grief isn't something you beat, it's something you grow around, and that love, even when it's gone, echoes for a lifetime. If you haven't seen Train Dreams, please make the time. This is one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen, and I genuinely think it's something special, something rare. Thank you for listening to my review of Train Dreams. If you enjoyed the content, leave a like and hit subscribe. If you did not enjoy the content, thank you for sticking around. As always, I would love to read what you have to say, so leave a comment and let me know what you're thinking. Also, if there's something you want to see reviewed, don't forget to let me know and I will do my best to get to it. Lastly, if you want to see some more from me, then you can check out my vlogs linked up above or my podcast, Good Friends. Again, thank you for watching. My name is Diego and I will see you next time.